For decades, these crimes haunted investigators, shattered families, and left entire communities facing a single, unbearable question. How can a human being kill, disappear, and then go on to live an ordinary life? These stories were not created for sensation. They were real, documented cases, buried under failed investigations, fear, and unanswered grief. In the end, what solved them was not coincidence, but time, relentless effort, and the simple truth that no crime can remain hidden forever. The first case began in the 1970s in the US state of California, a place often associated with sunshine, beaches, and opportunity. But behind the calm suburban streets, a nightmare was quietly taking shape. In 1974, residents in the Sacramento area began reporting a disturbing pattern of home invasions. Women were being attacked inside their own bedrooms. They were not random. The attacker moved with precision, planning his assaults weeks in advance. At first, police believed they were dealing with a serial rapist, not a killer. He was labeled the East Area Rapist, a name that reflected how little was known about him. He struck in middle-class neighborhoods, often near canals, bike trails, or open fields that allowed quick escape. He stalked his victims relentlessly, calling them beforehand, sometimes breathing silently on the line, sometimes threatening future attacks. What terrified investigators most was his level of preparation. He entered homes before the attacks to unlock windows, remove screens, and study layouts. He memorized the locations of bedrooms, phones, and possible weapons. He stacked dishes on the backs of restrained husbands, warning them that if the plates rattled, their wives would be killed. These were not impulsive acts. They were rehearsed, methodical, and cruel. By the late 1970s, the crimes escalated. The East Area Rapist moved south. The sexual assaults were followed by murders. Couples were bludgeoned, shot, or strangled. The killer had evolved. Law enforcement realized too late that they had been chasing fragments of the same man under different names: the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, the Visalia Ransacker. Separate jurisdictions failed to connect the dots. Between 1974 and 1986, Joseph James Durangelo committed at least 50 rapes and 13 murders, though investigators believe the real number may be higher. He left behind DNA, but in an era before modern forensic databases, it was useless. There was no match, no suspect, no closure. Then, without warning, the attacks stopped. For decades, silence followed. Survivors tried to rebuild their lives. Some married, some divorced, some struggled with lifelong trauma. Parents of murdered victims died without knowing who had destroyed their families. Detectives retired, carrying boxes of evidence they believed would never speak. Everything changed because of one idea. Instead of asking who is this DNA, investigators asked whose family does this DNA belong to. In 2018, detectives uploaded crime scene DNA to a public genealogy website. They identified distant relatives, constructed massive family trees, and slowly narrowed their focus. Surveillance teams followed one man, Joseph Durangelo, a former police officer who had once worked in the very communities he terrorized. When he was arrested outside his quiet suburban home, the revelation was devastating. A man trusted to uphold the law had spent decades violating it in the most horrific ways. In court, victims finally spoke. Their statements revealed a truth often forgotten. Even when the crimes stop, the damage never does. In 2020, Durangelo pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He would never walk free again. Justice had waited more than 40 years, but it arrived. The second case unfolded in Wichita, Kansas. In 1974, a man murdered the Otero family, 2 parents and 2 children. The brutality shocked the city. Soon after, police and media received letters from someone claiming responsibility. He signed them with 3 letters that would become infamous: BTK. Bind, torture, kill. Dennis Rader was not impulsive. He was a meticulous planner. He stalked victims for months, sometimes years. He drew diagrams of homes, kept journals, and fantasized about control. He worked as a compliance officer, lived as a church leader, raised children, and attended community events. No one suspected him. BTK craved recognition. He sent letters, poems, and photographs to police. He described his murders in detail. Then, after the 1990s, he disappeared. Many believed he was dead or imprisoned elsewhere. But in 2004, his need for attention resurfaced. He contacted police again. This time, technology betrayed him. A single floppy disk, something he trusted, contained metadata. It led straight to him. When Dennis Rader was arrested in 2005, the community was shattered. His family had no idea. In court, he described each killing with chilling calm. There was no remorse, only pride. He received 10 life sentences. BTK would never kill again. The third case was quieter, but the pain was no less profound. In 1996, Kristen Smart disappeared after attending a college party in California. She was 19 years old. She never came home. The last person seen with her was Paul Flores. For years, suspicion followed him, but evidence was thin. Kristen's family refused to let her become a forgotten name. They pushed law enforcement, spoke to media, and filed civil suits. Their persistence kept the case alive when others had moved on. In 2020, ground-penetrating radar revealed disturbed soil beneath the Flores family home. Evidence suggested a body had once been buried there. Though Kristen's remains were never found, the truth was undeniable. In 2022, Paul Flores was convicted of first-degree murder. His father was also sentenced for helping hide the crime. After 26 years, justice finally spoke. 3 cases, 3 killers, 3 decades apart. Each story proves the same truth. Time does not erase guilt. It only delays exposure. Technology evolves. Witnesses come forward. Evidence resurfaces. And those who believe they have escaped the past eventually discover that the past never forgets. Justice may be slow, but it is patient.